The sun was setting over the city of Paris, casting a warm golden light across the skyline. The Eiffel Tower sparkled in the distance, and the sound of accordion music drifted through the streets. It was a perfect evening for romance and adventure. Juliette had always been a hopeless romantic. Growing up in a small town in the south of France, she had dreamed of finding her Prince Charming and living happily ever after. But as she grew older and moved to the city of Paris, she began to realize that love was not always as easy or magical as she had imagined. One evening, as Juliette walked along the Seine River, she heard the sound of someone playing a guitar. She followed the music and found a handsome young man sitting on a bridge, strumming his instrument. They locked eyes, and Juliette felt her heart skip a beat. The young man introduced himself as Pierre and asked Juliette if she wanted to sit and listen to him play. They talked for hours, sharing stories about their lives and their dreams. Juliette felt a connection with Pierre that she had never felt before, and as the night wore on, she realized that she was falling in love. The next day, Juliette decided to take a chance and meet up with Pierre again. They wandered through the streets of Paris, exploring hidden alleyways and quaint cafes. Juliette felt like she was living in a fairy tale, and she knew that she never wanted it to end. As they walked along the banks of the Seine River, Pierre took Juliette's hand and kissed her. It was a magical moment, and Juliette felt like she was floating on air. But as they parted ways for the night, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The next day, Juliette tried to call Pierre, but he didn't answer. She began to worry that maybe he didn't feel the same way she did. She spent the day wandering through the city, trying to distract herself from her thoughts. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had lost something special. As the sun set over Paris once again, Juliette sat alone on the banks of the Seine River, feeling lost and alone. But just as she was about to give up hope, she heard the sound of Pierre's guitar. She turned around and saw him standing there, looking more handsome than ever. Pierre took Juliette in his arms and told her that he had been struggling with his own doubts and fears. But after spending a day apart, he realized that he couldn't imagine his life without her. They kissed under the stars, and Juliette knew that this was the start of her own fairy tale ending. Juliette and Pierre's love continued to grow stronger with each passing day. They spent their time exploring the city, trying new foods, and making memories that would last a lifetime. They were happy, and nothing seemed to be able to bring them down. But one day, as they were walking through a park, they came across a fortune teller. Pierre was skeptical, but Juliette was intrigued. She sat down and had her fortune told, and the fortune teller told her that she would soon face a great challenge that would test her love for Pierre. Juliette brushed it off at first, but as the days went by, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease. She started to worry that something would happen to Pierre, or that they would be forced to go their separate ways. She tried to ignore her fears, but they continued to haunt her. One day, as Juliette and Pierre were walking through a crowded market, they were suddenly separated. Juliette looked everywhere for Pierre, but he was nowhere to be found. She panicked, thinking that her worst fears had come true. She searched the entire city, asking everyone she met if they had seen him. But no one had any information. Juliette felt lost and alone, unsure of what to do next. As she sat in a park, tears streaming down her face, she heard a familiar sound in the distance. It was Pierre's guitar. She followed the sound and found Pierre sitting on a bench, playing a song he had written just for her. Pierre told Juliette that he had wanted to surprise her with a special gift, but had gotten lost in the city. He had been looking for her just as frantically as she had been looking for him. Juliette realized in that moment that her love for Pierre was stronger than any challenge they could face. They spent the rest of the day wandering through the city, more in love than ever before. Juliette knew that no matter what the future held, she would always cherish the memories they had created together. She was living her own fairy tale, and she knew that it was just the beginning of their happily ever after. As Juliette and Pierre continued to explore the city and enjoy each other's company, they couldn't help but feel that their time together was slipping away. Pierre had to leave in a few days to go back to his hometown, and they didn't know when they would see each other again. They spent their last few days together cherishing every moment, trying to make as many memories as possible. They went to all of their favorite places, and even tried some new things they had been too afraid to do before. On the night before Pierre was set to leave, they went to a rooftop bar and looked out at the city lights. They talked about their dreams and aspirations, and promised to always support each other no matter what. As they walked back to Juliette's apartment, hand in hand, they both knew that saying goodbye would be one of the hardest things they would ever have to do. As Juliette and Pierre continued to explore the city and enjoy each other's company, they couldn't help but feel that their time together was slipping away. Pierre had to leave in a few days to go back to his hometown, and they didn't know when they would see each other again. They spent their last few days together cherishing every moment, trying to make as many memories as possible. They went to all of their favorite places, and even tried some new things they had been too afraid to do before. On the night before Pierre was set to leave, they went to a rooftop bar and looked out at the city lights. They talked about their dreams and aspirations, and promised to always support each other no matter what. As they walked back to Juliette's apartment, hand in hand, they both knew that saying goodbye would be one of the hardest things they would ever have to do. Months had passed since Pierre had left the city, and Juliette was starting to feel like she was living in a dream. She had always been a hopeless romantic, but she never imagined that she would find a love like this. One day, while she was walking through a park, she received a message from Pierre. He told her that he was coming to visit the city for the weekend and that he had a surprise for her. Juliette's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't wait to see him again and find out what the surprise was. She spent the next few days preparing for his arrival, making sure everything was perfect. When Pierre finally arrived, Juliette ran to him and they embraced in a tight hug. As they walked through the city, Pierre led her to a bridge that overlooked the river. There, he got down on one knee and pulled out a small box. Juliette's eyes widened as Pierre asked her to marry him. She was speechless, tears streaming down her face. She said yes, and they kissed as the sun set behind them. After Pierre proposed, Juliette couldn't stop smiling. They spent the rest of the weekend celebrating their love, calling friends and family to share the news. As they sat in a cafe on their last day together, Pierre told Juliette that he had something else to share with her. He pulled out a piece of paper and handed it to her. It was a letter, written in beautiful calligraphy. It was a love letter from Pierre to Juliette, detailing all of the reasons why he loved her and why he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her. Juliette's heart swelled with emotion as she read the letter, tears streaming down her face. She knew that she had found her soulmate, and that their love was meant to last a lifetime. As they hugged goodbye at the train station, Juliette knew that she would never forget the magical moments they had shared together. She knew that their love was a modern-day fairy tale, and that they were living proof that true love really does exist.